the concept is you get paid twice a month.
You pay twice a month. Everything goes in there to pay the balance down with everything you have.
You balance down, but then whatever you're available. So just to make math simple, I'm just going to use 100,000. That's a pretty small house, but it's an easy number. So you have $100,000 house. You have $10,000, that you have to. So you have. Let's say I have 50 grand in there. I would have the availability of $40,000. Is that right? So if I had a $50,000 in my first lien, I don't think I would be able to have access to the full 50.
So I can help.
Help me.
So if the home's worth $100,000, we have a limit of $90,000. So that's your max limit. If you owe $50,000 on the house, right? You owe $50,000 on the house at that point. You owe $50,000, but your limit is $90,000, which means you have access to $40,000 at that point in time.
Yep.
And so so that's the concept. So if you were to deposit $5,000 into the HELOC for that month, that would drive down your balance to $45,000.
Yes.
Well, remember your limit's still $90,000. So at that point you'd have access to $45,000. But in terms of the strategy during the month, drive in the income pays the balance down to $45,000. Well, now we pull from the HELOC to pay our bills. So this is where we kind of start to better understand when it works and when it doesn't work.
Okay.
Because it's not a fix-all for everybody. It actually doesn't work for most people. And so then, it kind of begs the question of who does it work for? And so in a household that is tight on their budget, that has, difficulty managing their spending, that is living month to month, I would argue most people, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'll tell you, I'll get there in a second, but that means that the income is about the same as the expenses. And so if we think about the strategy, right, we deposit the money in and take the money out to pay for our bills. So if they're about the same, in that scenario, you pay the balance down with that $5,000 with the income to $45,000. Well, if your lifestyle requires $5,000 also, you take it right back out.
Yeah.
Right? So, what you do is you pay it down to $45,000. Does that create a lower average daily principal balance? Yes. Is that better than maintaining a $50,000 balance for the month? Yes. But if you drive in $5,000 and take $5,000 out, down by 5, up by 5, down by 5, up by 5, you would never pay off the house. It wouldn't be a successful, it wouldn't be an option that would benefit that household. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. There was probably for the first 2 years that I was working with this loan, specifically, I didn't have one. And people would call me out and they say, Anthony, why don't you, you're saying it's the best thing since sliced bread. Why don't you have one? And I'd reply by saying, well, tell me again, what does it require for this to be a better option? And they said, well, you have to make more. If they understood it well enough, you have to make more money than you spend. Right. And I said, well, guess what? I've got 3 kids in daycare.
Yeah.
And it's $3,500. I was like, I'm calling my parents to borrow money. Like, I shouldn't have this.
Yeah.
For the same reason why I would argue that it might make sense for you because you're in a completely different cash flow situation than I am right now.
Yeah.
And so, so it's important to kind of name that, right? Because it's not a fix for that situation, right? It's not like all of a sudden because it calculates interest using the average daily principal balance, you get to offset all this interest and it pays it off. It really comes down to balance manipulation.
I see.
So yeah.
And so, okay, I think you did a great job explaining that, and it very much is attractive to someone who wants to pay off be debt free. And I would argue, and I've said this publicly, that if you're going to aggressively pay off your debt, doing it in a 30 or even a 15-year mortgage, like the way that Dave Ramsey recommends, like get a 15-year mortgage, so make the payment higher and then aggressively pay that off and just pray to God that you don't lose your job or get disabled. It's like, because you're just like, oh, that's a terrible situation to be in. Whereas if someone aggressively pays off their mortgage with the first lien, if God forbid something happens, they have liquidity and control. And I think that is probably the best, for me, that's like the best distinction between if I am going to pay off, if I'm motivated to be debt free, first lien would be how I would choose to go about it.
Mhm.
Or I would try to I would there's no way that I would be paying fast on my 30-year mortgage unless I could have a type of relationship where I could get a second lien
Right.
HELOC and
Yep.
it get updated as I aggressively pay
As you
down.
aggressively pay it off. And there are a couple things with that. It's interesting, Dave Ramsey, he's not a proponent of this. And I think I understand why.
I think you should be though. I really do.
Well, so I believe one of the arguments that I've seen him make, I'm pretty sure, is that when you get a first lien HELOC, you're going to become irresponsible.
Yeah.
You're going to overpay. Now, I would argue that if there's a household that doesn't know how to manage their budget and they're just learning about Dave Ramsey and they're listening to the things that he's proposing as safe things to do, right?